Hey everyone, John Corra here, Marketing Director for McClinton Mitsubishi. And you might think that you're seeing double here, but you're actually not. While these vehicles are both octane blue metallic, on your right is the 2021 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport, and on your left is the 2022 Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross. And while these vehicles, both sold by Mitsubishi, are very similar, I want to show you some ways today that they're different. So let's take a look. All right, so both of these are smaller than the Mitsubishi Outlander. They're both two-row crossovers. You could argue that they both fit inside the compact category, or some might even argue that they're subcompact. But let's start with how these vehicles are so similar. First of all, they both ride on a wheelbase of 105.1 inches. So their wheelbases are identical. So that's one thing to consider. I will mention that the length of the Eclipse Cross overall, it's actually about 8 inches longer total. So technically this is indeed a bigger vehicle than the Outlander Sport. But it's interesting how they have that package inside the vehicle. You'll see that later on where you can actually see the major difference. I do want to let you know that these vehicles are not apples to apples. The Outlander Sport is a limited edition to where the Eclipse Cross is an SEL. The SEL is very much the top of the spectrum for the Eclipse Cross. The LE over here for the Outlander Sport is kind of in the middle. So both of them are well equipped, but I just want to give you a heads up that the Outlander Sport is not at the very top of the trim level range. As far as the width goes, they're almost identical. The Eclipse Cross is 71.1 inches wide, to where the Outlander Sport is 71.3. So technically the Outlander Sport over here is a tad bit bigger as far as width goes. Now, one area in which they're different is the engine choices. So on the Eclipse Cross, no matter which trim level you get a 1.5 liter turbocharged engine. It has 152 horsepower. Now, I know we have a lot of overseas viewers, so in Europe, for instance, there is a plug-in hybrid version of the Eclipse Cross available. That version of the Eclipse Cross is not available here in the United States, so we'll only be talking about the turbocharged gas engine today. On the Outlander Sport, however, there are two engine options. If you get most of the trim levels, including the base ES all the way up to, I believe, the SE, you get a 2.0 liter naturally aspirated four-cylinder engine that has 148 horsepower. There is a 2.4 liter four-cylinder option available on the GT trim, and that one has 168 horsepower. So if you go with the GT, your advantage on horsepower will be with the Outlander Sport. Just something to keep in mind. Also, it's interesting to note that most of the trim levels, so if you get an ES or above on the Outlander Sport, or if you get the SE or above on the Eclipse Cross, you're going to get 18-inch rims. They're actually the same size rims, same size tires on both. I will say that the Eclipse Cross has Bridgestone tires, to where the Outlander Sport here has Nexans. Just as a Mitsubishi owner, someone who owns the 2018 Outlander Sport, I prefer the Bridgestones over the Nexans. So just keep that in mind if you're looking for tires on your vehicle. As far as height goes, the Eclipse Cross is about 1.5 inches taller than the Outlander Sport, and it's honestly to a point where it's barely noticeable. So they're pretty much the same as far as height goes. Now, one thing I found interesting was, even though the Eclipse Cross is longer overall, when you go to the rear seat legroom, the Outlander Sport, even though it's technically smaller overall, it has about 1.5 inches to almost 2 inches more rear legroom. So it's just one of those ways where they have it packaged. These vehicles are obviously styled very differently, especially if you come around here to the back. Let's turn around here. There's the rear end styling on the Outlander Sport, and there's the rear end styling on the Eclipse Cross. All right, now around back in the cargo areas where you're going to really see the biggest difference when it comes to how these vehicles are sized. The Outlander Sport was refreshed for 2020, but they didn't really do any major cosmetic differences inside the vehicle. The Eclipse Cross over here was refreshed for 2022, and they added about 5 inches more in the cargo area, so 5 inches more behind the back seat. That means that this vehicle here, the Eclipse Cross, has about 2 cubic feet more cargo space behind the second row than the Eclipse Cross. And that's the biggest difference as far as interior dimensions or exterior dimensions go. It's the space behind the second row. So if you need a whole little bit more, the cargo space in the Eclipse Cross may be more suited for your needs. But if you're more concerned about having a little bit more rear leg room and rear cargo isn't a big concern of yours, then the Outlander Sport may be a better fit for you. So that's the biggest difference when it comes to the size of the vehicles. But there's more than just what's skin deep on the Eclipse Cross and the Outlander Sport. Let's go for a deep dive to really explain the major differences between these two vehicles. All right, so if you get either of these vehicles in front-wheel drive, you're not going to see a whole lot of difference. But when you do an all-wheel drive comparison, you'll see a big difference in the vehicles. So the Outlander Sport has a traditional all-wheel drive system. There's not really any drive modes. It's just off, on, or locked. And I'll include a video here where I describe, or a link to a video where I describe the differences in the all-wheel drive systems in more detail. But essentially, the Outlander Sport, with it being an older vehicle overall, has a more simple all-wheel drive system, or they also refer to as four-wheel drive. The Eclipse Cross, on the other hand, has a more advanced super all-wheel control system. So not only does it have available all-wheel control, but it uses a system that was developed for the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution that has a more advanced all-wheel drive system. So there's actually settings. So if you go into the vehicle, you have different settings for the all-wheel drive system. There's different modes for like gravel and stuff like that. So you can actually change the settings of the all-wheel drive system. Let's go ahead and jump into the Eclipse Cross, and I'll show you where there's more differences as far as the interior goes. All right, so we're inside of the 2022 Eclipse Cross. This vehicle originally debuted in 2018. Like I said earlier, it had a refresh for 2022. But this vehicle overall has more technology. You can see like it's got a bigger screen available here. It has the features like electronic parking brake and auto hold. Those are not available on the Outlander Sport no matter which trim you get. On the Outlander Sport, you won't find something like Mitsubishi Connect, which is a very cool new tech feature a lot of people like because it integrates into your smartphone. The Eclipse Cross also has like a garage door integration system in the infotainment system. That's not available in the Outlander Sport. Their transmissions are the same, I will say that. However, they're also different. Both vehicles have CVT transmissions. Their gear ratios are the same as well, quote unquote gear ratios. Any hardcore person who knows how CVTs work knows that there's not really a first gear, second gear, third gear. But the Eclipse Cross over here has simulated gears. So it's like essentially acting as an 8-speed transmission, even though it's a CVT. So you can actually go up here and do the sport mode up and down, and you can do simulated gear shifts. Can't do that on the Outlander Sport. The Outlander Sport does have a sport mode down on the gear shifter, but it does not have the simulated gears like 1 through 8. All right, so we shift into reverse, and then you'll notice the 360-degree camera as well as the traditional backup camera there. And yeah, there's a bit of a glare. Oops. Okay, so there's the 360 camera. There's the traditional backup camera. Not available at all on the Outlander Sport is the 360 camera. Now, there is a backup camera standard on the Outlander Sport, but I've come to like these 360 cameras myself, so that's something to consider as well. And the technology, let's put it back in park. The technology on the Outlander Sport isn't quite up to date with that of the Eclipse Cross. So like this has TomTom GPS navigation built into it, not available on the Outlander Sport at all. So you're getting into this whole like what's more important to you. Like the Outlander Sport is a great entry-level crossover, to where the Eclipse Cross is kind of more upscale, not only in the way that it looks, but the available features. And once again, like that Mitsubishi Connect is a game changer. It integrates with your smartphone. And like the HVAC controls down here are a little bit different on this vehicle as well. You have more integration here in the steering wheel. I will say the controls and the display here for like the tach and the speedometer are pretty common in both vehicles, but so much more is available in the Eclipse Cross than it is in the Outlander Sport. And though this vehicle doesn't have like a moonroof, for instance, the moonroof is a big difference in the two vehicles. First of all, the Outlander Sport over there, we can just turn around, doesn't even have an available moonroof. The Eclipse Cross has an available panoramic moonroof. So it's a dual pane panoramic moonroof. It stretches all the way to the back seat. It actually has two different openings. So one part actually opens completely, and then there's a part in the back that opens just so you can view the glass. So once again, what's the most important thing to you? Now, both do have available heated seats, which is a great feature. This one has an available heated steering wheel. It's not available on the Outlander Sport. Now, I do want to say, once again, because we get so many international viewers, if you buy the RVR in Canada or the ASX overseas, like in Europe, those do have like the panoramic moonroof available and the heated steering wheel available. But once again, we're in the United States here. We do not have that trim level available on the Outlander Sport. It used to be available up until 2018, then it went away. So once again, just something to consider. All right, and here's the interior of the Outlander Sport for comparison. Once again, more of a basic setup. Now, they did do an upgrade in 2020 and for 2021 on this screen. It's bigger now. It's an 8-inch screen. Used to be that the biggest you could get was a 7-inch. 7-inch is the standard one in the ES. But if you go to an ES Plus or above, you're going to get this SE. I'm sorry, you're going to get this 8-inch screen. Also, like I said, there's other features available. Like down here, you can see the heated seats. There's your 4-wheel drive lock system. Your pretty standard gear shift. Right here, you have a standard parking brake. Okay, one thing I will say is, like, I'm a very tall person. I'm 6'4", and I have so much more room in the Outlander Sport than I do in the Eclipse Cross. So the way that the dash is set up, as well as the console here, it is, for me, once again, a 6'4" man who's big, it is more comfortable to ride in the Outlander Sport than the Eclipse Cross. So that's something else to consider. One thing I do want to touch on is safety features, and both of these vehicles have a great list of available and standard safety features. And that's one thing I will say that Mitsubishi is doing great this year. Like, you get standard forward collision mitigation on every Mitsubishi sold, no matter which one you get. You have the blind spot monitoring available on both. You have adaptive cruise control available on the Eclipse Cross. You do not have like the rear cross traffic alert available on the Outlander Sport, but basic safety features are the same. Both have a plethora of airbags available. Actually, standard, I'm sorry. Both of them have a lot of standard airbags, and they're not going to sacrifice safety for value. So that's one of those things where, even though you're not paying a lot of money for either of these vehicles, Mitsubishi is not going to, like, once again, sacrifice your safety needs for that. So something to consider. All right, so that pretty much wraps up the comparison of these two vehicles, except one important factor, and that is price. You can tell that these vehicles are priced very differently right now. And once again, they are different trims. One is an entry-level trim. The other is pretty much top of the line. The SEL does not have the sunroof package, so you pay a little bit more for that. But you are going to pay more overall for the Eclipse Cross than you will for the Outlander Sport. And it's not a huge difference, mind you. I mean, it's not going to be like $15,000, $20,000 difference, but you're going to pay a few $1,000s more for the Eclipse Cross. Once again, there's more safety features, there's more available features, there's more as far as like the all-wheel control system goes. So that does cost a little bit more in the long run. So once again, something to consider. So no matter which vehicle you buy, the Eclipse Cross or the Outlander Sport, if you buy them from McClinton Mitsubishi, you're going to get a 10-year, 1 million mile powertrain warranty. That's not a factory warranty, that is a McClinton warranty. And no, that's not a mistake, that is a 1 million mile warranty over the 10-year period. Now, Mitsubishi does have a great standard factory warranty. They have the 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty, but with us, you're going to get that kicked up a notch to 10 years, 1 million mile. you do get a 5-year, 60,000 mile bump to bumper warranty. We also include your first year's service. So, your oil changes and your tire rotations, those are included too. So something else to consider is why we're building value into this brand, just like everyone else is coming to love Mitsubishi. We're going to give you another reason to love Mitsubishi. So the best way to tell the difference between these two vehicles is to stop by, test drive them. They're both available in Octane Blue Metallic. And I will say, I personally would choose the Outlander Sport. And I actually did choose the Outlander Sport. I own an 18 Octane Blue Metallic, so same color, Outlander Sport. Mine is an ES front-wheel drive. I absolutely love my Outlander Sport. I would not trade it for anything. And like I said before, I am more comfortable in this vehicle than the Eclipse Cross. I've driven them both a lot. And while I do like a lot of tech features and safety and everything, this vehicle, for me, I like the price a lot better. And I just like the way it fits. I've taken mine on a lot of road trips. I probably put about 55,000 miles on it in under 2 years. So I can say it's a great handling vehicle. It's safe, it's comfortable, it's reliable. And that's what I chose. So if you have any questions, as always, please comment below. We love answering Mitsubishi questions. Be sure to like and subscribe to get all the latest information on Mitsubishi. We're also a Chevrolet dealership, so as soon as we get some new Chevrolets in, we'll be doing some videos on there. And give us a call, 304-422-6501. All right, everyone. Hope you have a great day.